Hello, everyone. This is Sykes Music Studio. I shared the first tutorial video I made with my advisor from UCR, and he recommended that I create a tutorial video 0, basically for the absolute beginner to max, where to find it in Ableton, what the different patch options are and what they're used for, and the different documentation and tutorial options that are available within Max. So let's hop right in and cover some of these basics for Max. Now, to find Max in Ableton, you just go to your collections window over here and click on the Max for Live tab. You'll see 3 different options here. You have audio effect, instrument, and MIDI effect. Now, we'll get into more details on the differences between these in a moment, but to access these different options, you'll click the triangle here, and then either double click or click and drag the file with the same name as the folder into the bar down here. You only need one of these. Audio effect. So an audio effect is going to take audio in from this object called plugin tilde, and we'll go over the what an object is in a bit. But basically, this is going to receive audio from Ableton. You'll build a patch to edit that audio or control, modulate, whatever you want to do with that audio. And then your plug out tilde object is going to spit out your modified audio. To get an idea of what you can create with an audio effect, you can go to your audio effects panel on the left here in collections and take a look at some of the stock options. We have delay. You can affect the color. You can create your own filters, reverb, that kind of thing. Anything where you're going to modify audio, either from a digital instrument, which we can talk about more in a second here, or pre-recorded audio. So these are really good for modifying audio that it already exists and spitting out new audio. Our second option here is the Max instrument. And as you can see, it has a MIDI in and a plug out tilde. Now MIDI in, well, for starters, what is MIDI? So to know to give a little idea of what MIDI is, it is essentially a set of instructions that controls your digital instrument's performance. So think of your notation software like Sibelius, Finale, something like that. Those all use MIDI to translate the notes that you're putting on your staff into a language that your computer will recognize and then send to a digital instrument like this and take that MIDI and turn it into audio. So let's figure out a little bit about MIDI in Ableton. Not too much, but enough to give you a basic idea. So if you double click on a MIDI track, and we have a piano instrument already loaded up in here, but what you can do is you can double click in this MIDI editor here to create a bunch of notes. And when our playback reaches those notes, it's going to play it back with our piano. Nice. Now you can modify the MIDI by doubling or halving its duration. You can invert it, which means if it were going up a fifth, it's now going down a fifth, and vice versa. You can reverse it. It's just a really powerful tool for editing your composition as you are working on it before it becomes audio. So there are certain things, editing individual pitches inside of an audio file is much harder than editing individual pitches in MIDI. So I recommend using MIDI as a staging and prepping for your to stage to prep for your audio. It's much easier that way. Now, where am I? There we go. Your Max instrument is going to allow you to create instruments in the same vein as your default Ableton instruments. So you can try to emulate a acoustic instrument. You can create a synthesizer, whatever sound you want to be able to control with MIDI, you'll use a Max instrument. Our last option here is a MIDI effect. Now, this is what we're using for our sequencer tutorial. You'll see we have a MIDI in and a MIDI out. So this will allow you to take MIDI information, translate that MIDI information in our sequencer tutorial. The case of our sequencer tutorial, we're not taking MIDI in, but we're essentially allowing the user to send MIDI out. But MIDI in would be something like you have a sequencer and then you want to put an effect on it. So we can take a look at our default MIDI effects. So say we wanted an arpeggiator after our sequencer. That's what the MIDI in would be for. But yeah, with MIDI effects, you can create arpeggiators. So a single note becomes an arpeggiated sequence. Same thing with chord. A single note becomes a chord based on the semitone changes that you want, intervals that you want. Really anything that you want to have have controlled by MIDI, you can make with a MIDI effect. Now, to start editing and creating stuff in your new Max patch, let's stick with our MIDI effect because that's what we've been using so far. You can click this edit button. It's going to be this little button in the top right here on the left of the top right options. And that will open up. Max will start up, and then it'll open up an editing window that we can, that you're familiar with from the other videos. And this is where we can start editing stuff. Now, to zoom in and out, which is going to be something you'll do frequently, you can either go up here and change the zoom percentage, or you can hold control and use your mouse wheel. It's giving us a basic idea of what to do here. You have your MIDI coming in from live. You have it's telling you to build your MIDI effect between your in and out. And then you have your MIDI going out to live. Now, to find the different elements that you can use to build your patch, you can come up to this bar in the top left here, and it'll give you the name of the element and the hotkey used to create it. So object, you can hit N, and it'll give you an object. Message, you can hit M, it'll give you a message. Now, we've already gone over the different elements here, or the different common elements. And there are a few more that you can quickly access with hotkeys, but I typically use different objects to handle those purposes. But let's just go over it again real quick, just so that we have a basic idea. So our button here is going to output a bang when it is clicked on or when it receives a bang. So when I click this button, and because I've attached this cable, it's going to send a bang to this message. Now, we'll talk about messages a little bit more in a bit, but what we're going to expect to see is bang pop up in our message here. And there it is. So we sent bang into this cold inlet, and we'll talk a little bit more about hot and cold inlets in a second here. But, or actually, I guess we can talk about it now. So because it went into our cold inlet, if we were to add another message, and repeat the process, you'll see that it's not outputting information. So cold inlets will just alter the way a message or an object interacts, or the information that it's going to output. If we move the bang into this hot inlet, it's going to have some sort of output. So when we click bang on the bang, it's going to send the bang into our new message, and then we can cascade and be silly and do weird stuff. But so yeah, your messages are going to store information, and then when you send a bang to them, they'll output that information. Your objects are going to handle the major processes for your patch, everything from collecting and storing information to again, acting as a metronome. I know I used those examples before, but they're the most obvious in my head because we've been working on a sequencer. But yeah, so whatever you type into them, let's say we want a gate. It will become that object. And all these different objects have different inlets and outlets that do different things. And you can mouse over the inlets and outlets, and they will generally give you an idea of what they do. So as you can see here, gate 0 closes the gate, non-zero opens the gate. So we can take this toggle, which sends a 1 or a 0 based on whether it's on or off. So we send a 1, and then you'll see if you mouse over the output here that the gate is open. Do the same thing, turn it off, it's sending a 0, and the gate is closed. So objects are going to be your most important element in Max. They're going to do most of the work, but these objects are going to allow you to interact with objects and change the way those objects behave. All right. Now, how do we know what objects to use and when to use them and why? Well, there's a couple of different ways. One, if you already know the object you want, but don't know necessarily the way to utilize it, you can right click or use Control-Shift-H here to open gate help. Now, Max, Cycling 74 and Max have really good documentation. Cycling 74 is the creator of the program. And as you can see, it'll tell you exactly what things do and how they work. So you can see all outlets are off. And now mousing over inlets and outlets, you have to have the program unlocked. So to lock or unlock your program, you just click this little padlock in the bottom left here. And that will allow you to, when it's locked, interact with interactables. But it won't allow you to edit things. And then when it's unlocked, you will be able to edit things, move things around, change what they say. Whoops. That kind of thing. But as you can see, when we open these outlets, we had our metronome banging into them and banging into a counter that then sent those numbers into these number counters. So yeah, the Max help is very, very useful for getting a fresh idea. But another great source is Max documentation. Cycling. All right. And you just go to this website, docs.cycling74.com, and you can access tutorials. It'll tell you what the messages do. So certain messages here can be used to control different things. For example, if I want this button, this toggle to ignore click, which means if I select this and I lock the program and I click on it, you can see that nothing is happening here. Now, if I want to be able to dynamically control that, I can send it ignore click 1. And as you can see, that locks it. If I change that to ignore click 0, it is now unlocked. Now I am able to interact with things while the program is unlocked by holding control and clicking. So that's going to be really, really useful for you while you're editing your patch, but you still want to interact with things. Instead of locking the program and not being able to quickly go back to editing, you can just hold control and click and it'll do what you want it to do. All right. So I hope this is a good basic idea of the different objects in Max, the different patch options in Max, where to go to find answers for various questions you might have while you are learning the program. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to ask them in the comments below. And as always, I truly appreciate all of your support, and I look forward to our next video. Thanks. Bye.